Now, we're going to show you an old film that was highly popular in its day. The Man in the Flannel Gray Suit. And it's important because it shows way back in its day just how used good men were. The average guy who was working away and trying to support the family. Now, this clip is about 4 minutes long. I know a lot of guys don't want to go through 4 minutes, but it is jammed packed with everything you need to know about the marriage relationship between men and women. Now, when you look at this clip, I want you to see her reaction, the wife's reaction, when he brings up the children. Okay? What about the children? Now, watch this.
You're gonna have to brace yourself for this one, honey.
Okay, let's have it.
That was Alfred. He says there's nothing left in Grandma's estate.
Nothing?
Nothing but that old barn of a house, and there's a $10,000 mortgage on it.
What about the money Grandpa left?
Apparently she lost it.
Well, that's certainly one on the button. What about the house? What do you think we can get for it?
I've already had one offer, $20,000.
20,000? That house must have cost $150,000 to build.
Well, that was 50 years ago. Nobody wants an old rookery like that today.
Get the butter, will you?
It's one of the few houses in Connecticut that hasn't grown old gracefully.
You don't mean you're going to let them have it for that?
What do you think we ought to do about it?
Oh, that's the best offer we can get. I think we ought to hang on to it for a year or two anyway, till we can figure out something better than that.
You know what it would cost to keep up a place like that? Something like $6,000 a year on a $7,000 salary.
But you're not going to always be making $7,000.
That's what I mean. I could be making less.
But you can't look at things like that, Tommy. You've got to believe that things are going to get better. Promotions, opportunities, some good breaks. That's what life is. Hope and the breaks. You can't just accept the way things are now.
I think we ought to sell it and put the money in the bank or some insurance. Well, did you ever stop to think what might happen to you if I should drop dead some morning?
I'd drop dead right there by you.
What about the children?
I don't even want to think about it. What I want to know is, you don't expect to be with the foundation forever, do you?
Well, of course not, but you've got to admit it's an absolutely safe spot.
All right, then. What about this? We sell Grandma's house and this house, too, and we get us a nice house in a nice neighborhood.
So here we go on that again.
But why not? If we can make maybe $15,000 on this one, and with what we clear on Grandma's...
Look, honey, don't you understand?
I'm sorry, Tommy. You know how I hate this house, but you don't know how much I hate it. It's ugliness. It's depression. But most of all, it's defeat. Don't you feel that at all?
Well, it's not exactly a palace.
It's a graveyard, Tommy. A graveyard of everything we used to talk about. Happiness, fun, ambition. And I want to get out of it.
But if we put it all in the bank...
And go on living here for the rest of our lives?
Betsy, maybe you don't know it, but there are a lot of people in this world who are doing a lot worse than we are.
Oh, no, they're not. They may look like it, but they're not. There are things about this house. It's not a happy house, Tommy.
I don't think that's true, Betsy.
Ever since the war.
Will you stop harping on the war? It's been over for 10 years. It's gone and forgotten.
I don't believe it. Not for you, anyway. Whether you know it or not.
All I know is that I don't think this is any time to be taking chances.
Then if it wasn't the war, what has happened to you?
What do you mean, what's happened to me?
I don't know. Except that you've lost your guts and all of a sudden I'm ashamed of you.
Now there you go. This woman, this is the utopia guys would talk about even today, where the guy fought through the war, he survived, and he's making good for himself. He's got a good income. He's got a house where the wife is all to themselves. The family unit's separate. They're not living with anyone else. And they're doing fine. she's not happy with that. This is seen as very early on in the film because it is the centerpiece of the film. This is what sparks almost everything that goes on in it. She, the wife, is not satisfied with the good life they have, during that era, right after the war when things are going good. And notice what her reaction was when he mentions how they may not, they're putting themselves in financial risk is bad for the kids. He said, what about the children? She says, I don't want to think about the children. Translation, the hell with the children. I don't care about the children. I care about what I want. And this is important because you'll notice that what she wants, she is going to put above the, health of her children. And he will go along with it. And she shames him in the end of the scene. You have no guts. You're supposed to risk it all and let the chips fall where they may. There's only one problem. When the chips fall, she's not going to take any blame for what's going on or what happened. Everything's going to be shouldered on him. When he actually goes for it, and she's not going to be blamed for anything. People are just going to look at him and say, well, you're the one who signed on the dotted line. You shouldn't have done that. His decisions to follow what this woman wants is going to be carried entirely on his shoulders. And the old, what happens something to me, she says, I'll just go along with you. I'll just drop dead with you. That is a bold-faced lie. Something happens to him, she's going to mourn the fact that she's in trouble, and she will search for another man to take his place. Now take a look at this next scene right here.
Bill Hawthorne told me about an opening at UBC yesterday. I went over to see them about it this afternoon.
I'm awfully sorry about last night, darling.
Maybe I had it coming to me.
What's the matter with us, Tommy? Is it me?
There's nothing the matter with us. We don't want to make too much out of a little blow-off, do we?
We ought to be pretty happy, really. Your job's plenty good enough. We've got 3 nice kids, and we love each other.
Must be the house.
How much will that new job pay?
I don't know. Maybe 8 or 10,000.
You know what I think would be nice?
Now, just a minute there. I haven't got this job yet.
I know, but when you get it, trip somewhere together. Wouldn't you like that?
If it works out that way. Maybe that little shack in Vermont I was telling you about.
I think I'll call the agency tomorrow about that day woman to take care of the kids.
Now, look, honey. Let's not pack our bags yet. Not until it's a little more than a possibility, anyway.
You see, she's all happy now. You said, why do we even fight now that she's getting what she wants? And she's already planning on the things they're going to do with his new raise. See, this is a total leech. This woman provides nothing to her family. She's just there. And she's demanding more without giving anything. They even have a housekeeper in this movie to look after the kids. Where is she? She's not going to work. Now, that all being said, check out this scene.
Hello, dear. You are really a wonder.
I'm terribly worried.
Will you have a drink?
No, thank you. When did you last see Susan?
About a month ago. She's becoming a real beauty, isn't she?
Have you any idea of the kind of life that she's leading these days at 18?
No, but I'm sure.
She lives in nightclubs.
But at 18, don't all rather well-to-do girls go through that stage?
She's not rather well-to-do. She's very rich. And she's your daughter with your name. She's a celebrity in that filthy crowd. And I can't tell you how unattractive it is in her.
A celebrity?
And the men she goes with. Never a boy of her own age or of what should be her crowd. But the man she spends most of her time with now is older than I am.
Who is he?
Byron Holgate, his name is. He's an old leftover from the Scott Fitzgerald era, still marrying and divorcing women. A pure horror.
He's notorious. He's a public fool. Even the gossip columnists know that. What can she be thinking of running around with a clown like that?
I hate to say this, but I think that what she's thinking of with him is marriage.
I couldn't believe that for 1 second. It's just unthinkable.
The other one is a writer. 45 years old, 3 children, and a wife that he doesn't live with. He took her to the opening of one of his plays on Broadway last week, and an all-night party afterward waiting for the reviews to come out. At 18.
What's his name?
Patterson. Michael Patterson.
I know him, too. That can't have been a very merry party when they read those reviews. Why do you let her go out with such people?
How can I stop her? I can't lock her in her room.
Have you had a really serious talk with her?
Well, of course. Mother, she says, don't be medieval. And that
what?
And that who am I to offer advice when my own marriage has been a failure?
Well, that's hardly the whole truth.
That's not the point now. The point is that I can't do anything with her anymore.
Apparently, we'll have to get a little tough with her. I'll have a talk with her right away.
Not just a little talk, Ralph, and then forget the whole thing. You've got to do something. This is the time for you to make up for all the things you've never done before.
That's right. That guy is Gregory Peck's boss. And he goes through the same problems. That's why they get along so well in the film. And this guy, his wife, of course, married him because of his wealth and status, which he has to maintain by endless labors. He himself says in the movies, you can't be a 9-to-5 guy and do what he does, to own what he does. And what is this wife doing, who has all the time in the world? Their daughter, of course, is running around with older men. You know, one guy's a clown, by the way, because, you know, he's divorces all the time. They act like, you know, he just swaps out wives when in case the wives don't want to be with him and are glad to divorce him too. But everything's shouldered on him, of course. And this girl shows she doesn't want to be around guys her own age because they don't have status. And as I said, this wife of his, who has all the time in the world, she's at her end rope. She can't do anything about her daughter. So he better pony up. You know, all the things he didn't do with her before, right? Why didn't he? Because he has to work continuously to keep things up. So he doesn't have time for his family. Yet here he is expecting to have, you know, stop time or produce time with his magic wand to come out and, you know, maybe make duplicates of himself so he can fulfill all roles. Now, on top of that, look at this scene.
It's pretty close to 100. Haven't you any spots?
I got one here on my left leg. I couldn't have had it when I was a child, like any reasonably intelligent person.
Speaking of which, what about our child? I haven't heard a peep out of him this evening.
That's that day woman from the agency, Mrs. Matter. I had to get her for a day or two anyway. And does she make him jump? You should have seen it. Sit here for a minute, dear. I think I've got it all worked out.
You've got what all worked out?
We sell this house and move into Grandma's.
Now, look, honey.
But no, Tommy, you've got to listen first. You can't say no until you've heard it.
All right, I'm sorry. Go on.
We move into Grandma's, but only for a little while. Just until I can figure out something else.
What else?
There are 23 beautiful acres in Grandma's place. And do you know what they're getting for just 1 acre lots around there? $5,000 apiece.
Can't do it, Betsy. You can't slice it up. There's a zoning law in South Bay.
But zoning laws can be changed, Tommy. They're being changed every day now. But we can't do anything about that one unless we're residents of South Bay.
I see.
If we can get that zoning law changed, we can chop the whole place up into lots, borrow money from the banks, and build houses on them. And the very least we can make is $100,000.
And just to think, only a week ago we were facing the poorhouse.
I'm not kidding, Tommy.
Well, may I ask you just one question?
Go ahead.
While we're living in that barn with all that money going out, while we're waiting for that $100,000, would you mind telling me just what we're going to eat on?
On your salary from UBC.
But I haven't got a job with UBC, and I'm not going to get one. I told you that. I have no intention of switching jobs without a raise, and that's what it would have to be. The man told me so in so many words.
But you can get a raise if you want it.
What do you mean if I want it?
You can get it because those two fellas wouldn't have been talking to you about salary if Mr. Hopkins hadn't said he wanted you. And if Mr. Hopkins said he wanted you, Mr. Hopkins is going to get you. And for $10,000, if you've got the nerve to hold out for it.
That's right. Here she is. She's got it all planned out. She doesn't have to deal with any of the stress. She doesn't have to worry about any of the risk. And if he doesn't go for it, you know, he can get it if he has the balls. That's what she was going to say. And all you guys hearing this know that. This is this disgusting parasite leech female saying all this. She has ambitions, which she has to put nothing down. There is no risk for her. She doesn't have to deal with an ounce of stress. She could go out and get these things herself. She could go get a job, you know, and help support him. She's not going to do that. It's going to be put all on him. Now, I want you to look at this scene.
Did you write this?
Never mind who wrote it. What do you think of it?
I don't know very much about the subject, Tommy, so my opinion wouldn't mean much one way or the other.
Stop stalling, will you?
You didn't write it, did you?
You answer my question first.
All right, then. I'm afraid I think it's kind of boring. But then maybe that's me.
Is that all? Just boring?
I hate to say it, darling, but I think some of it's a little silly, too.
No, I didn't write it. Hopkins had a hand in it, but most of it, I think, is Ogden's. I think he jumped mine and came up with one of his own. But the point is, Hopkins wants me to tell him what I think of it.
Well,
I think it's dreadful.
that's what I meant. And you tell him so, too. Well, aren't you?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
This has turned out to be a very tricky business, honey. And a lot of tricky angles to it.
Well, what's that got to do with your telling them what you think about this speech?
Well, one thing I've learned already is that you've got to protect yourself in the clinches. The thing to do is sort of feel your way along. I mean, when they call you in to give a report like this, you begin with a lot of highly qualified contradictory statements and watch your man's face to see which one pleases him. For instance, you can begin, I think there are some wonderful things in this speech. Then you pause for a second or two. If that seems to make him happy, then you go on. And I have only a few minor alterations to suggest. But if he looks a little startled on the word wonderful, then you switch and say, but on the whole, I don't think it quite comes off. If you've been smart enough about it, you can wind up by telling him exactly what he wants to hear.
But that's not what you're going to do, is it?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Well, I've got to protect myself, haven't I?
Well, I'll tell you what I think about it. I think the whole idea is sickening.
Now, just a minute. What's the matter with you?
It's not what's the matter with me. It's what's the matter with you. Even thinking of such a slimy trick.
Well, what do you think I ought to do? Go in there and tell the man his speech is a farce and get thrown out of my ear?
How do you know you get thrown out on your ear? Is he that much against honesty?
Look, Betsy, you don't know this business.
Is he dishonest himself?
How do I know whether he's dishonest or not? That's exactly the point. I haven't the faintest idea who's honest in there and who's not. All I know is that he helped write this speech, and it's his own personal baby.
I don't care whose baby it is. This is a speech that can make or break a very important health campaign for this country, isn't it?
It could.
Then are you going to tell him the truth about it or not?
But how do you know that that's the truth? How do you know that this isn't precisely the way to appeal to those people?
Oh, Tommy, you don't even believe that yourself.
Well, it's exactly the sort of appeal that sells $1 billion worth of cars in this country every year.
That's entirely different. That's some kind of mass nonsense. These are very intelligent men he'll be talking to. They'll throw up at that muck.
Oh, you don't know anything about it, one way or the other.
All I know is that he's asked you for an honest opinion in a very important matter, and I'd like awfully to know if he's going to get it or not.
Well, I could have told you that at the beginning. He is.
You mean you're going to tell him?
I'm going to tell him exactly what I've told you, that I honestly don't know. But that this sort of approach has been successful in other sales campaigns, and I see no reason why it can't work in this one.
Are you trying to kid me?
But that is the truth. The exact truth, as a matter of fact.
I've got to go finish the dishes.
Now, just a minute, Betsy. I've told you that this is a loaded situation, and with all kinds of angles to it. But there's another side to it which I think you must have overlooked. It just so happens that I've landed in one of the neatest positions in the whole organization, right next to Hopkins himself. It's a spot that 3/4 of the people at UBC would give their right arms for, and he likes me, I know it. Now, will you try to remember what that could mean to us if I handle it carefully?
If you handle it carefully and honestly, yes.
Weren't you the one that wanted more money? New house, no more worries every week?
I still do.
Do you hear all that? You see, this guy, he's put himself out, his neck out, for this woman's ambitions. And he has to logically assess the system, the situation, and how he must behave, and what he needs to do to get ahead and get what he wants. She doesn't want to deal with the realistic version of this. She wants him to uphold some, to be non-diplomatic and just come up and say what he likes in spite of the fact he's not in charge. That ruffling the wrong feathers could get him ousted. And what's going to happen? What's her reaction going to be when this guy fails? If he takes her advice and just fails, well, he's going to be to blame. It's not going to be her. She's not going to turn around and say, "Wow, I gave you the wrong advice. I better, roll with the punches or accept my own failures." No, that's not going to be the reaction to this. Now, we've shown you all kinds of clips. You don't really need to go any further, or at least we don't need to go any further in this video. You can watch that movie. It's on YouTube, and it's chocked full, one end to the other, with the usury of housewife leeches and daughters to their fathers and husbands. And the two main characters in here, one played by Gregory Peck, these guys, what attracts them to one another is the fact they're both men of integrity and character. And they're working in the business. They have great character. They like the fact that men are honest and come right up to each other and say what they feel and what they like. They don't like to deal with diplomacy in politics. And this character that Gregory Peck plays, it gets bastardized later on in the Mad Men series. Don Draper is basically the deconstructed, character that Gregory Peck plays. You know, they're both tall, good-looking guys who espouse integrity. Of course, Don Draper, he doesn't really have the same integrity. You know, he's continuously sleeping around, and he even though he values integrity, he doesn't really have a lot of integrity and character himself. And that show came out pre-2016, Ghostbusters. You know, this taking of iconic male heroic characters and showing them as anything but. This has been going on for a long time. It's probably been at least 20 years. But to get back to what's really important about this video, what I'm trying to drive home, is the fact that this character, when people watch this film, the man in the gray flannel suit, no one was scratching their heads. Everyone saw this as normal. There's a guy, like I say, he did everything right, and it was never good enough. And the female, the wife, is a complete parasite. And everyone saw that as okay. Gregory Peck's character is okay with her leeching the whole time. He'll say, oh, nothing's wrong with us. Nothing's wrong with you. You know, everything's right. You have the right to expect all this from me. That's how sad. And this is what? I have to look back to see what it was. Oh, yeah, back in the 50s. Back in the 50s. So this usury, that happened as soon as it could happen. It happened with the nuclear age. Just as soon as technology brought us into the nuclear age, the average woman revealed just what she expected from her husband, which is everything. He takes all the risk, he takes all the work, and he takes all the fallback. Thank you.